Hello, this is Group 3, Singapore's Country Analysis by Kerry Smith, Joe Nash, and George Bettis.
Good afternoon. The outline. Myself, Carrie Smith, will go over the country background and business practices. Then Joe Nash will go over the economic situations and competitiveness. After Joe, George Perez will go over the healthcare. And then I will end the presentation with the recommendations and conclusions. Country background. Singapore is located in southeastern Asia and is separated from Malaysia by the Johor Strait and separated from Indonesia by the Singapore Strait. The total size of Singapore is 719.2 square kilometers, with 709.2 square kilometers being land and 10 square kilometers being water. Singapore is slightly larger than 3.5 times the size of Washington, D.C. in the United States. Singapore's Independence Day is celebrated annually on August 9th. This day, in 1965, marks the day that Singapore became independent and separated from Malaysia. The separation was the result of deep political and economic differences between the ruling parties of Singapore and Malaysia. These tensions caused radical riots in July and September in 1964. The bill to separate Singapore and Malaysia passed with a 120 to 0 vote. The capital city of Singapore is Singapore. The current government type in Singapore is Federal Parliamentary Republic and is ran by President Halimah Yacob, who was Singapore's first female president. President Yacob is accompanied by three prime ministers: Prime Minister Lee Long, Deputy Prime Minister Teo Heen, and Tharman Shanmugaratnam. The total population is 5.996 million people and is 100% urbanized. 96.6% of people in Singapore live in the capital of Singapore, which is approximately 5.792 million people. Business practices. There are 4 official languages in Singapore: English, Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil. Other Chinese dialects are also present. The literacy rate for all of Singapore is 97%, with 98.7% of males being literate and 95.4% of females being literate. The country time zone for Singapore is Singapore time and is the Coordinated Universal Time plus 8 hours. The normal work times are 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., with no more than 44 hours a week. The federal retirement age in Singapore is 60 years old. For the industries, 0.7% are agriculture, 25.6% are industry, and 73.7% are service. The current exchange rate is 1.3 Singapore dollars per US dollars. Next, Joe Nash will go over the economic situations for Singapore.
Hello, my name is Joe Nash. I'm here to talk about the economic situation in Singapore. The reason why you see a lot of these countries they didn't have a lot.
Hello, my name is George Bettis. I'll be speaking about healthcare. Singapore's government has planned, built, and continues to develop and maintain its national public healthcare system for both public and private insurances in the country. The healthcare system is administered by the Ministry of Health, and that ministry has the responsibility for accessing health needs and planning for the delivery of services throughout the networks of health and hospital facilities, which include daycare centers and nursing homes. The ministry also manages, plans for, and maintains staffing, creates financial policies and governance of all the systems pertaining to the public healthcare system. Funding is done via a combination of government subsidies, multi-layered health care finance schemes, private industrial savings, at all national and local levels, with expenditures set in the government's annual budget. These expenditures account for 4.9% of the GDP, making Singapore 145th in comparison to the world. Their current healthcare situation is again 4.9 of the GDP. There is 2.28 physicians for every 1,000 patients, and there's 2.4 hospital beds for every 1,000 patients.
Recommendations. Singapore has a high ranking on the Global Competitiveness Report. Coming in at second, Singapore ranks in the top 5 on many of the index pillars. 4 areas that Singapore ranks the lowest in are macroeconomic stability, skills, market size, business dynamics, and innovation capabilities. Singapore should focus on the inflation rates and debt dynamics to increase their macroeconomic stability. To improve the skills, more years of schooling and pupil to teacher ratios should be focused on, and for business dynamics, the regulatory framework and the scientific publications, trademark applications, and quality of research should be improved. Even though Singapore is number 2 on the Global Competitiveness Report, there are clear areas that need to be worked out to improve as a country. Today, we have gone over the country background, business practices, economic situations, competitiveness, healthcare, and some recommendations for Singapore. Thank you for listening.